pandemic got us into a reflective space and made us look inward to see what we can do for the world at large. As a self-expression coach, I became a catalyst for women and started Vani, a one-on-one coaching program for women on finding their voice, to speak up, to be visible. As a storyteller, I spotted there were many ordinary people amongst us leading extraordinary lives, making a difference to the world, and they needed to be heard. Thus was born You and I with Rashmi Shetty, where amazing personal journeys with their uniqueness and individuality are showcased. A reaffirmation of the fact, open your eyes wider, the world is far more beautiful when we acknowledge the presence of both you and I. Our guest today is Coach Sahar. Sahar helps individuals to make better decisions and lead their life with purposeful clarity. For those who want to master their untamed mind and develop the art of emotional, social, and spiritual intelligence, Sahar is the go-to clarity coach. Through her coaching interventions, training sessions, and residential retreats, she handholds one towards self-awareness, health, fulfilling relationships, career growth, and spiritual well-being. Working closely with business leaders, CEOs, coaches, trainers, healers, and therapists, Sahar believes she is blessed to empower the change makers to enable well-being, growth, and healing in others. Apart from coaching and training, she has amazing retreats on self-discovery and mindfulness, tapping into your ultimate potential, and write your book. Listen in as Sahar shares her amazing journey. Hi, Sahar. I'm so thankful you have agreed to come on You and I with Rashmi Shetty. The first thing that I want to know is, what was pretty Sahar like as a little girl? The life of little Sahar to the Sahar, the clarity coach, the healer that people know today. So if you can take us on that journey, it'll be awesome.
Hi Rashmi, thank you for having me. Such a pleasure to be here. Yeah, so the little Sahar had physically similar kind of hairstyle. And I think I was a very observant child. And I had my naughtiness in a very different way. I wasn't a destructive child, but I had my ways of doing naughty things. In the sense, I would observe elders, I would record their dialogues, and whenever they would say something which was contradicting to what I had heard before, then I would actually blurt it out. So usually they didn't like me around when they were lying because and I had a very sharp memory. So I would do that. And Rashmi, it is interesting that size-wise, I didn't grow. Like, I could wear the same outfits my mom had bought me when I was 3 or 4 years old, when I was actually in class 7th also. So I had remained so tiny and short, and yeah. And then what I remember is that I was very fond of reading and numbers, and even probably from the age 2 or 3, because my dad taught me how to read. And my first book was of George Orwell, the animals. So I was reading as a zoo. Now I understand it, but that time. And and I became a parent to my parents very early. So I think I didn't have too much of a childhood thing. I was always a responsible one. But then I was a little cunning. Like, if I would have a fight with my elder brother, I would really trouble him. And then when I would realize, okay, now this is a point of no return and he's going to really hit me or do something, I would sit down and I would start pretending I'm crying. And he's so cute and kind. He would start hugging me and eventually I would win the war. Yeah, so I was a different kind of a child, I guess. Not a childhood. I grew up too fast, I think.
Oh, okay. And where were your childhood memories completely? Where were you growing up? And where did you study? What did you study? How was all of that?
Yeah, so I grew up in different schools and different countries. It's interesting that we traveled a lot because of my elder brother, because he had a speech problem. So we were in different, like we lived in London, then we lived in Germany. We came to India so many times in between. But because of all this travel and all this search for, his cure, I lived in different cities and countries. And also, when we were in Iran, for some reason, I am now realizing that I kept on changing schools, because, like the moment I would be 2 years into a school, then something would happen just by, by life itself, I would say. I won't say chance, because there's nothing like chance. And I had to be put in another school. So I was quite a studious child, in the sense I would not really study, but I used to grasp everything very quickly. So once I am in a class and I've heard it, I didn't need to go back and read it as such. So because of that, then I was also moved to a school which was for, special children with a higher IQ. And I studied there for some time, and I was about 2 years ahead of my time, in the sense, by the time I was 7, I was actually in class. I was finishing class 3. I was going to class 4. Whereas in Iran, for class 4, ideally you should be 10-year-old, because we start schooling at 7. So, and that was because of my dad. Probably he wanted that I should cover up for my elder brother. Not that he was not studying, but he was a slower, and he really wanted me to do well. And then, I studied many places. And because of, in the later stage, because of too much of traveling, then actually I was like equal to other children. Like by the end of it, I think at 16, I finished school. And I did 2 years of MBBS, which I had to leave because my parents decided to relocate to India for my brother's sake. So I studied science, basically. I picked up biology, chemistry, but my mom really wanted me to be an engineer. So she said, no, you have to do physics and maths. So basically I had all subjects. It was a chaos always. So it was, that's what I studied.
But you just told us that you could remember all that you read once.
Yeah.
So you were the topper invariably in every class that you were in?
Yes, I was always amongst the top 3 in not only in school but in state. I graduated from school like 12th with 98.9%, where I had all the subjects like physics, maths, chemistry, bio, and I would also top in any other activity which was of my interest. But if something was not of my interest, then I was put there. I would just not perform. I would zap. So I would not do it. Yes, in many ways, I think best I would describe myself as a very stubborn child of life. I used to be. I'm not affirming it
now. So looking back now, Sahar, and seeing that little Sahar who was brilliant in just retaining all that she studied, changed schools, but was able to be amongst the top, and was very clear that she would listen to everyone and still have her way. You call yourself a clarity coach now. You are an energy healer. You're a clairvoyant. So you do past life regression. There's so much you do and so much you know. It's always a pleasure listening to you because there's just something you leave us with. So where did you collect all of this, Sahar? How did life take you and where did life take you? You're an author as well. So here is one person who's a bundle of so much. You definitely are a blessed person for sure. But where did each one enter your life as you progressed?
Yeah, so I think I call myself a wanderer, but now that you spoke, I feel probably I've also been a collector. I've been collecting a lot of stuff. And from childhood, I whatever I would learn, it was not that I would just learn it because I had to give an exam. I would learn it to apply. Like I remember, we used to do physics in class 10th, and then we had just learned about the law of spiral, right? So we had to go for an exam, and everyone saw me walking towards the narrow side of the spiral, staring going up. And they were like, why are you doing this? There's so much of space. I said, you guys don't understand. As per physics, if I walk this side, I will save a lot more energy. So I can do a better business of the
Wow.
game we are going to play. So I would actually apply whatever I learned. And the things I could feel that I cannot apply them, like botany, I just couldn't manage to understand. I would barely studied it to get through because my dad was a little strict. I mean, a lot strict with numbers and all. So we had to get a good percentage. But I think, yeah, I have been collecting and I have been applying. And probably that's my gift, because I could do so many things where whenever I was doing something, I was reading, I was studying, observing. I'm a very observant person. I observe it, and I don't observe everything. Right? I'm very selective in my observation. I observe moods, behavior, consequences of the actions, the tones of the voice of people. I am observant in that way, very human
And
mind and
when did you
emotion.
realize your all of this? When did you
Uh,
start realizing this?
Rashmi, quite recently, actually. I never, like anyone else, I never believed that I had a gift.
Hmm.
I never believed in myself, to be very honest. I shouldn't be saying this as a clarity coach, but this is the truth. And I want to say it because, if I could do it, anyone can do it. I want to be that example that, oh my God, she did it so possibly. So I grew up with a lot of disbelief in myself, actually, because I come from a family where, something, I don't want to use the taglines, but something with the mother. And so I only learned not to trust myself because of whatever inputs I was receiving from the environment. And from the father, I was receiving environment of believe in yourself, you are a blessing, you are a child, whatever. So it was a lot of conflict within me to whether should I believe in myself? Is it really true or is it not true? So quite recently, in fact, once in 2017, when I went into I decided to go to 90 days of silence, but because of very dear friend's father fell sick with the stage 4 cancer and they wanted me to heal, so I broke it at 72 days. So once there, I realized certain things, and then again, I would say the whole of 2021 was actually a beautiful self-discovery for me. So yeah, quite recently, but now when I look back, I'm glad, because all the things that I felt, they were distractions, and they were the things that I was wasting time, energy, or made me very different from the other people. You want to belong, you want to be a part of the group, you want that because my peers would always say there's something odd about you. How can you not have a boyfriend till, let's say 20? How can you not even have read, let's say, Mills and Boons ever? I've never read it. And I used to feel like maybe I'm in the wrong place or something is wrong with me. But now I feel, that divine doesn't do anything, without a reason. So if you have certain qualities, even if they don't match the people around you, but probably those are your gifts and strengths. So yeah, that is how it happened.
Oh, then in that case, I'm abnormal too, Sahar. I've never read Milton Boots.
Okay, I find
So that is something that I really don't miss because I used to have all my friends reading them, but I was never attracted to read a book.
yeah, same here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so okay, so we are good. So you're not that abnormal. But as you finish, okay, 2 years medicine, you could not complete, you moved. And how did your journey into all of mental wellness? Because you're amazing when you talk about mental wellness, mental detox, the recent webinar that you did that I was part of. And I really liked how you make it very simple and yet it is very deep. Who is Sahar? How would Sahar like to describe Sahar?
So the Sahar today, I would say, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have known. Even probably I wanted to be someone who is very sought after, liked, whatever, all those fancy stuff. But today, I think Sahar is someone who's very much at ease with herself. Um, continuously working on myself and understanding what are the things that would add value to me, So I would say that today Sahar is someone who's not ashamed of being a warm person, a little clumsy, bubbly, sometimes in a very good mood and sometimes doesn't want to talk to anyone. So quite at ease with myself. And I think my mantra is joy, that I do things if it gives me joy. And if it doesn't give me joy, I may still do it because we all are human, right? Sometimes you care for people or people matter to you. So kind of, I would say, compromise your boundary, and I think it's human. We all should do it once in a while. But Sahar today is someone who can say no with ease. And all that matters to her is to add value and also receive with honor and value. So that is me, but no fuss about anything. Like Rashmi, you won't believe, I was such a disciplined, organized, fussy person that just my presence would make people uncomfortable because I was so appropriate, so prompt, so proper, not a word here and there, not a smile on my face. And that was also a phase when I was in corporate and until a few years ago. And then today I'm like, I like to be vulnerable. I like to be out there. And I'm a person, the Sahar today can see wherever she's dishonest, wherever she's not authentic, and also the reason behind it. And why is she doing what she's not doing, or why is she not doing what she's not? So I think that's a very good place to be. It's nothing can be perfect, but at least working towards what I can think as perfection, maybe. But yeah, I can't say perfection, but being more of me. And I would say actually claiming my place. Sometimes we have to claim our space in our own life because we have divorced and disconnected from our own being, from what are we like and we dislike, because we always want to fit in. We always want to be seen as someone who's of value, who's achieving all the doing stuff. So today I want to be more of being, and it really doesn't matter if someone approves of it or not anymore.
Okay.
So I may sound a little selfish, but that's how it is.
No, I think that's very important for mental health, that we approve of who we are rather than wait for the world's approval, because we are not going to get it all the time. And if the more dependent we are on that, the less happy we are.
Yes.
So as you go through life, Sahar, and you meet so many different people who come to you as clients, what are some of the things that shock you and surprise you about us human beings? What is it that makes you think, why?
Number one, our lack of responsibility towards our own well-being. That really shocks me, actually. And number two, lack of not initiative. What would be the right word? A willingness, a lack of willingness to even want to make life better. And the third thing would be that how we have got addicted to perform. We are always performing, and it is tiring. It's so tiring to perform. So I think these three things are where I get really shocked and amused that why are you doing what you're doing? And if you have come to someone who can tell you you shouldn't be doing, and it's okay if you don't do it, you still do it, right? So that is where I think, and it's not a shock anymore, but it's like, what would it take for you to take charge of your life? How difficult can it be? Anyone can do it. So when people refuse to do it, and when people think someone like me or you or someone else is supposed to make their life better and put them on track, that's sad. That's actually very sad for me.
Honestly, from this question, organically, what I would like to ask you is, you said that we can take charge of ourselves and people don't normally. What are some of the reasons people don't? Are they in denial, or is there something deeper?
I think, some are in denial. I believe that they don't even want to see the problem. But the layer beneath that is then there is no one to blame for, Rashmi. Then I'm the only one responsible. Then I can't blame Sahar or God or mother or mother-in-law, then I really need to, pull up my socks and do something about it. And we don't want to be the one who's gone wrong. The ego mind doesn't like it. We don't want to admit.
Okay. And what is the ego mind like? How does the ego mind even come up? When does it come up? Are we aware that the ego has taken over?
Unfortunately, most of the times, no, we are not aware. The ego mind kicks in from the first time the competition for survival happens, and usually it happens in the womb. It would be surprising for you to hear that more than 90% of women don't want to have a child. Okay, or if they want to have a child, they're so fearful of the changes that it will bring to the relationship, to their body, even the fear of delivery and the pain, how they're going to look like. And because we associate so much of beauty with our outer appearance, especially as women, but overall as human beings. Why women think that way is because men have given that kind of advantage to women who look better, right? So it's a very interwoven complex. But so that rejection at the same time, even the child is in the womb, that, oh my God, I am causing so much of pain to my mother, and maybe she doesn't want me, I'm the cause of her suffering. From there the ego mind kicks in. And then of course it gets developed and it gets into the mode of, I need to prove to be better, I need to belong. If I don't belong, it means I'm not good enough, I'm not safe. I need to behave in a particular way to be appreciated and loved. And the whole system we have, of reward and punishment for children. If you do well, you'll get a cycle. All the things we do, we think the child doesn't observe. Every child is like the Sahar child, observing everything and recording everything, right? And some of us come and use it, some of us forget about it because that becomes way of life. So ego mind is basically a part of us who needs to prove its worth. And for doing that can go to any length of people pleasing, of, using power and control, to force people for honor, respect, or love. Like we say narcissism, they demand it. And so, but it comes all from lack of self-worth and then the feeling that I'm separated from others and I need to be in a particular way to be loved and appreciated. Yeah. So, and then it's all doing, you're only worth if you're doing something, if you're achieving the numbers, the statistics, it's all ego. But the other part of us, the subconscious or the soul or the part of us which is very connected, measures everything by how I feel about it. It's like, okay, if I enjoy it, like kids, if they enjoy something, they'll repeat it 100,000 times a day. And if they don't like something, even if it is the best thing, they will not want to even eat it, So that's how we are supposed to be, actually, childlike.
That's so true, and I think that's the reason why children are so happy all the time because they're
Yeah.
living in the now. And as you have seen life, Sahar, and you meet so many different people through the course of your profession, how much is past life regression therapy a huge impact on who you are? Does it help to know who you were in your past life?
Okay, that's a good question. And I always say it's not really good for everyone to know who they were. And actually, Rashmi, I think this is where most people have mistaken this therapy for. Actually, the therapy is not about who I was in the past. The therapy was what did I miss in the past, which I've come back to learn, right? So whether I was a king or a pauper or a warrior or a prostitute or a god's, son or whatever, it's not important. What did I miss in the past that for which I had to come back and learn? Because now what is the basis of past life regression is we are supposed to evolve and we are supposed to remember, means we go back and become one with who we were. On earth, this is the story that we forget all that we know about the universe and all other universes. So inertia happens. And once we are on earth, we don't remember even who we are, forget about what we are supposed to be doing here. So what happens is once we enter the system of the earth, which has its own universal laws, let's say law of karma, law of, attraction, law of oneness, because we need to be reminded. We have these laws, sorry, because we need to be reminded. All other beings don't need to be reminded. It's a very straight thing. But then they don't have a choice of evolution, and we have. So as per the theory of past life regression or law of karma, whatever goes around comes around. And it means whatever starts from me in whichever way has to come back. Now, in due process of learning this and evolving, I would have missed some lesson somewhere. Let's say I came to learn unconditional love, right? And I went through this childhood conditioning. I didn't remember this was my lesson because I'm a nerd. I went through a childhood conditioning where my, let's say the mother or stepmother or whoever was in that scenario, showed me a lot of hatred and told me I am not good enough. Now, because I don't remember who I was, and now I've been told I'm so bad that I need to be hated. If I grow up and I start hating in that lifetime, and let's say I kill that person, I'll have to come back with the same person and then this person may become my husband. Now I'm supposed to love a person who hated me and taught me to hate myself. So now you can imagine what will happen in that relationship. So when we do past life, we want to go back and see what we missed, the lessons, and sometimes bring back the gifts. Let's say I was supposed to actually author this book. I was told it was a channel thing that I am supposed to write. And my clients, one after the other, would come through a past life or a soul macrocosm drama, and they all had the same message from their guides that tell her to write. But I couldn't till I went, and then I thought that I do this for everyone. Let me find out why am I not writing. So when I went back, I was an author who wrote a lot of truth and was actually beheaded for it. So the fear, if I write, I'm going to be killed, would not let me write. So the moment I saw that past life, I wrote that book in 42 days. Of course, editing and re-editing and the second, third draft took time, but just to put it down on paper took me 42 days. But I couldn't do it without going back to the past. So yeah, that is how the past life regression works.
Okay. And for people who want to understand why they be, because Many Masters, Many Lives is a beautiful book where Dr. Brandwas explains what the whole thing is.
Yes.
And some of the experiments towards the end, where in his workshops, the stories that come out are amazing to be true. They're that amazing.
I know.
And you're like, oh my God, is this past life regression? Maybe I'm curious. I should find out who I was. Now, everyone may not have the right inputs from the past life that can help them this life. Does it always help to heal when you do past life regression? Is it meant for all?
If you have a pressing issue and you have tried a lot and you could not find an answer, like let's say I went through a relationship which I just couldn't understand, why should this be so bad, so disastrous. So then I did all my homework, I researched, I tried everything, and I couldn't. So then I went and saw a pastor. So I always feel that if you're just curious, then no, you should not, because especially if you don't have a therapist or a seasoned therapist with you, then you should not. Because whenever we open a lifetime, we open, let's say if you lived 80 years in that lifetime, we open the whole 80 years. And now if you're curious and you just want to know who you were, you open all the wounds of that life also, the things that were wrong, how you felt at the loss of a loved one, what happened. But because and you don't have actually an objective and a purpose of doing it, you're just opening a life, and it's like open a wound and leave it there. So obviously it's going to become a problem. But if you have a pressing issue, and your therapist should decide whether you need it or not. Like a lot of people come to me with wanting to see past life, but I recognize their issue is in the childhood. They don't need a past life for that. So then I suggest inner child to them. So in that case, yes. But it is important, people, even though Dr. Brian Weiss is my mentor and I have a lot of regards, but I feel, just listening to an audio and doing a past life is not a great idea, because when you're working with a therapist, you've already discussed things. And when you're in the altered state of mind, she's in her conscious mind. she can apply logic, or he can apply logic and realize where all the links are missing, and then guides you to all those corners and clear all the webs, so that once the session is closed, it doesn't need to be revisited. The wound is clean, clear, the stitched back, and just put aside. You don't have to go there for the same issue again and again, right? So I feel it is good, but it should be done the right way, because it's not really past life tourism. It's like really therapy. And I say we are the soul surgeons. We are going to cut your soul. So if you don't let someone cut your body, you should not just let someone cut your soul just like that, right? So yeah.
Wow, I love the word soul surgeon. And talking about the soul, meditation is something that a lot of people went into when they got into
Yeah.
mental well being.
Yes.
And so everyone's talking meditation, but not everyone knows how to lead people into meditation. It's become the buzzword, the fancy word, whose meaning has been very loosely put by each one and defined by the number of people who practice meditation. So,
Yeah.
as somebody who has seen mental well being as part of who you are and what you are, I loved what you said that 2021 was completely reflective for you. Where and how important is meditation for all of us to understand who we are and who we can become?
Sure. So I think before we get into anything, it's important we understand and study it well and realize if it is good for us or not. And if it is good, then what system of it is good? Because we are 7 billion people, and we have 7 billion way of processing information, and maybe actually more, because there are other beings who are also on earth, but they are not in body, right? So we are actually 28 billion, if I want to really tell you the stats. So then there are 28 billion ways of doing things, right? Including meditation. So what I feel is that it's important that people really study something before they, just dive into it blindly and see if it works for them. And also, I do believe meditation is quite a powerful tool, but meditation necessarily doesn't mean that we sit with our eyes closed. What meditation scientifically means is that when we slow down the brain to bring the brain into alpha state of the mind, where the brain is beating about, let's say, anything from 7 to 14 cycles per second, right? So that is where our brain is active yet very productive, because it has a slowed down. So that is what meditation is, to bring you down to the alpha level of the mind. So for that, it can be anything. It can be a walk in the nature, it can be painting, it can be when you bake. Anything that can bring and slow down your brain is actually meditation. And in fact, the art of meditation is when you can do it with your eyes open, because the idea is to become more aware of you, your environment, your thoughts, your emotions. But when, let's say, I close my eyes and start chanting something, now my whole attention is on the chant. I am losing the purpose of meditation, which was becoming more aware. So we are being mistaken by meditation as a tool of, gaining power, psychic powers, become something. Meditation is to let go. It is not to gain, how twisted it has become. So anything which helps you to let go is meditation. And scientifically, especially if you're sitting with your eyes closed and you are focusing, let's say, on your breath, how much ever you meditate should be proportionate to two things. One is your age. Let's say if I'm 40, then I should be meditating not more than 40 minutes. If I do more than 40 minutes, I'm putting this practice out of balance, right? And less than this, of course, it is not good. Ideally, as per my age, the minutes should be equal to the number of my years on this earth. And how much of it, now the second rule is that, let's say I meditate 40 minutes, I should be doing some exercise or some form of grounding, let's say gardening, walking in the nature barefoot, sitting with nature, hugging a tree, touching the earth, anything which is grounding, or very heavy physical activity for at least 80 minutes a day. Because when we meditate, we are trying to access the upper chakras, the upper consciousness. But to thrive on this reality, you need your lower chakras also to be strengthened. And they need, because they are denser, they need twice or sometimes 3 times as much effort to be at a healthy level of being, right? So these proportions and a proper study of what is meditation, what is the purpose of it? Why do I want to do meditation? I mean, it shouldn't be I want to do meditation. It should be I sit and I naturally get into that mode because now I want to become more aware, right? So if we understand these things and do meditation, then I really feel it is good.
Wow, I love this definition where you said meditation is all about letting go. And letting go becomes the biggest byline of mental well being as well,
Yeah.
right? And in the last 2 years, a lot has shifted for a lot of people. So, when it came to mental well being, where people could openly talk about it and nobody looked at them with a different kind of a lens or glass, and the more people started speaking about it, the more people realized that I too have an issue, I've just not brought it forth.
Yes.
And now, when you see how talking mental well being, stating that I am not feeling good for some reason, I don't know why, is okay. It's
Yes.
okay not to be okay. Do you feel this shift, Sahar, is going to help the entire mankind or the people that you are meeting into moving into a better, calmer world? Was this something that is the biggest outcome of the pandemic?
Yeah, I would say two things have been the biggest outcome of pandemic. One is that, or maybe three things actually, Rashmi. One is that people have started valuing connections,
Hmm.
and now connections doesn't mean just your blood relation connection or a childhood friend. Now they value humanity a little more, and you can only value humanity a little more because you've become very honest with yourself. And now you're realizing this whole relationship thing is a two-way traffic. Isn't supposed to be need based. However, it is important to be there at the time of need, right? So I feel, yes, the biggest thing for most people, and Rashmi, it's not that everyone is like that. A lot of people have gone into fear mode. They're operating from extreme fear, their anxiety, fear, and all have increased. But at least they can talk about it because they don't feel left out, or they don't think that people would make fun of them or whatever their previous things used to be, right? So one is that people can talk about it. And the third thing I feel, which is the greatest, at least for me, which has come from the pandemic, is that people have started learning live one day at a time. If not live at the moment, but realize that they really have no control over life. They have to learn to flow eventually, right? So I feel, yeah, so whether you're operating from connection and love and everything, or you're on the other side of pandemic where you have fear of disease, illness, losing loved ones, which is also very just. But this one thing is common for all, that you have no control over life. Learn to flow. Learn to flow. So I think, yeah, these things for me are the signs of the pandemic, the outcomes.
Learn to flow. And how has your reflections in the pandemic been, Sahar?
So, I am someone who doesn't understand fear.
Okay.
I can understand stress a little bit. Before I used to have a lot of stress, but now the Sahar you're talking now doesn't really much have it stress. But fear I could never understand, not even as a child. Nothing would make me fearful. So, but what else has come up for me is that the pandemic helped me realize that I recognize all the places where it was a one-way connection, where I was the one who was keeping the connection. I was the one who was discounting and discarding herself in order to keep those connections, right? And I also, and many deeper layers of my own emotional body. Let's say there are certain grief I have not dealt with. There are certain, let's say traumas I had not dealt with. And they all showed up because I started working with a lot of people who were working from fear, and they were traumatized by the loss of someone. They had grief. And every time we work with someone, something gets triggered. So for me, it was to let go of those emotions who was making Sahar be the Sahar. as a therapist, Sahar. So once I have let go of those things, I feel I'm in a much more expansive state of being, like more free, more in the flow, kind of quite in surrender mode, I would say.
And that is one of the most beautiful modes to be in, the surrender
Yeah.
mode, because there's nothing you are taking control of, and
Yeah.
you're just being. And I think
Yeah.
being is the best place of being.
I know. So difficult to explain what does it
Yeah.
mean really, right? Because it's supposed to be experienced.
Yeah, exactly. I know with all that you have shared and what you have seen, there are many life lessons that you take. But can you share the top three life lessons that you'd like to leave us with, Sahar, which you think have really influenced you and made you who you are?
Yeah, so one would be never compare yourself with anyone, whether in personal or professional space. Uh, just be you. There's no competition because no one can ever be like you. Second is that wherever we are at the best possible combination the universe could have brought us to. So even if it feels ugly or painful, this could be the best. And the reason for that is I'm not shooting my mouth because I'm a coach, but there is a logic to it. Because the universe or the creator or God or whoever you want to think or call is incapable of creating pain for you, is incapable of seeing you miserable, is incapable of bringing you to a bad place. So it means you're at the best place. It's just that you don't have awareness of it, right? So this is the second one. And the third one is that just be a better version of you every day in terms of being authentic. And for me, being authentic is about knowing what I'm doing, where I'm doing, how I'm doing, why am I doing. And then if I feel that it's an uncomfortable space, for some reason I'm not honest or authentic, I'm not talking about the world, that's another story, but at least with myself, then at least decide to become better. you know so I think these are the three top things that I would want to share. And I feel if you have these three pillars and you have no other pillar, you will still thrive.
Wow, you will still thrive. Okay, there's a question that comes with the last life lesson that you said about authenticity.
Yeah.
Because for me, authenticity and vulnerability go together. And
Yeah.
when you're being vulnerable, you're being judged. How do you let go of that fear of being judged and be vulnerable? Because it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. And
Yeah.
when you're meeting so many people, how do you draw the lines of where can I be vulnerable? Does it come from within, or is it something that you can work on? How do you make sure the two go together?
So I think the strength to see to be vulnerable, you need two things, two ingredients. One is the strength to be out there, and also the courage to carry it forward. you know so I feel these two come from a space of having absolute trust in yourself, that no matter where and how weak my legs will go and where I would be and how disapproving my vulnerability would be, I still have the strength not to let anyone take advantage of it. My weakness is my weakness, and I'm sharing it because I honor my being and I want to be honest with myself, right? And now that doesn't give the permission to anyone to take advantage of it. So you need the strength for that. And then you need courage because you need to carry this forward. If once you're vulnerable or twice you're vulnerable and you feel horrible about it because of the judgments, then you can't take it forward, right? Then you become more miserable that now I have made a fool out of myself, right? So I think if you have these two things, and then you're very sure that, okay, this is my weak point, but I am strong enough not to let anyone take advantage of it. And as far as judgment goes, even we are very judgmental about everyone else. And whenever people judge us, basically they're trying to tell us what we think about ourselves. They're a projection of our own judgment on us. That's why we say if you change yourself, your environment will change.
Yeah.
Because how I see myself, I'll force the environment to show it like a mirror to me, right? So I don't think we should care if I'm me judging myself. Then I need to change. The better, the sooner the better, right?
So true, so true. And what a beautiful way to tell us that healing, acceptance, everything happens inside out. Thank you, Sahar. Thank you so
Most
very much for giving us these beautiful gems so simply. Like I said, conversations with you are so deep and yet so simple. It's only after we finish that there's so much to dissect further than that, because you've said it all so simply, but it's not the surface level. And that beauty is what makes you that much more one of the most beautiful people I have met, thanks to the pandemic. If not for virtual sessions, I think I would have never met you. And
yeah.
I'm so thankful to the universe and thankful to you for having agreed to be on You and I with Rashmi Shetty. It has been a pleasure and honor. Thank you so much for sharing who you are. And for me, you have become multifold beautiful than the Sahar I knew at the outset of this conversation. God bless you, Sahar.
Thank you, Rashmi. Deeply grateful for meeting you and then for you having me on your show. Thank you.
With that, we come to the end of this weekly quest of You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Do let us know if you know people who make the world beautiful. Write in to rashmi.thethirdeye@gmail.com. That is rashmi.thhirdeye@gmail.com. Come, let's explore this amazing world together, both you and I.